How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Marshall. Today is February 7th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on this potentially major Northeast and Midwest snowstorm that could happen later during the week. And we'll also talk about the current snowstorm that's currently impacting me, by the way, in New Jersey, and determine how much snowfall accumulation is left for the rest of the Northeast. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first taking a look at this next potentially blockbuster snowstorm that could impact the entire eastern half of the United States, more specifically the northward portion of the eastern half of the United States, where they're going to experience the snow, and then potentially severe weather to the south of that. And taking a look at the European model 120 hours from now, you see there's a decently strong low pressure system just off the coast, and right behind it there's an extending band of snow extending to upstate New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and a lot of New England. And a lot of the snow is heavy. It's not like one of those Clipper systems just moving through being light snow. You see the darker shades of blue throughout the Northeast, which represents higher snowfall rates and heavier snow overall. If we even move further back, the snow is still going to be over the Northeast, as it's expected to be sort of a long duration event for some in the Northeast based off of the European model as well as the GFS model. And what's interesting is that the two main computer models are really confident that this nearly the exact scenario is going to happen, where we're going to see a little bit of a jet stream dip that will enhance the unstable air mass, and it'll create a low pressure system just south enough to bring snow all throughout the Northeast, and just strong enough to bring heavy snow at that. And their position is very similar, their strength of this storm is very similar, and that's definitely something we want to see because it gives us confidence with the forecast. Let's compare the European model 108 hours from now to the GFS model 108 hours from now, and you see they're almost at the radar is almost at its exact is pretty much almost identical, where we see the rain extending to the southwest of this low pressure system, and then we see the snow forming to the northeast, and then we see also another band of snow towards the west of it that's expected to enhance the total snowfall accumulation and enhance and broaden the storm overall to make it a significant snowfall threat for not a lot of Northeast. However, there definitely are some minor differences. I'd say the snow extends a little bit further south in the European model than the GFS, and if the European model were correct, that would mean that more Washington D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia would get impacted by more snow. However, if the GFS model were correct, then it'll mainly be a close call for maybe DC and maybe more of a rain threat for a lot of Virginia and Maryland. But for the most part, the Northeast is still in the snow and the heavy snow at that. So there's currently I wouldn't say high confidence because again we're 5 days out, but the fact that both of the computer models are really similar in terms of their forecast, and especially the timing as well and the position, it's giving me high confidence that this is actually going to happen in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to make assumptions just yet because we're still 5 days out. Drastic changes could occur. Even 3 days out, we could see drastic changes in the forecast. But the fact that they're both agreeing that there's going to be a major snowstorm with very small margin of error between these two computer models, or very small gap disparity between the position and the strength of the computer models, it's giving me higher confidence than I typically would have when we're talking about a storm 5 days out. So I assume that a major snowstorm is bound to happen in the eastern half of the United States, but we just have to see where exactly and who it'll impact and how powerful this storm will be, because we're still ways away from actually reaching the event. However, what could change the snowfall forecast for this storm is it all really depends on how much unstable air there is to really strengthen this storm, and also it depends on, like I said, the ridging, because if the ridge is a little bit further south, that would mean the impacts will stay further south and it'll impact more of the mid-Atlantic states such as the Delmarva Peninsula and a lot of Virginia and Washington, D.C., while the more northern states like New England and upstate New York will get impacted less. However, the same goes if this ridge were a little bit further up north, because if this ridge ends up being a little bit further northward than expected, then you should expect the low pressure to be a little bit further northward as well, which would mean more of a heavy snowfall threat for a lot of New England, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then more of a rain event just south of, I'd say, the Interstate 78 corridor that extends through New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see where this ridge ends up, because it will be vital in determining the position of the storm. And also we need to see how much unstable air there will really be, and that really all depends on the northwesterly winds that are associated with the low pressures we're in fact seeing right now. Because if we take a look at what's happening right now in the weather, or what's going to happen 18 hours from now, you see the low pressure that's currently bringing a lot of snow through the Northeast is going to be long gone. However, the winds will not be, because there's going to be a dominating ridge in the eastern half of the United States, and obviously there's at least going to be some sort of pressure gradient, not a very strong pressure gradient, but there's at least going to be a decent amount, and it's going to be enough to bring northwest winds strong enough to bring a lot of that Arctic air further south. And if that Arctic air stays there for long enough, that'll make it more conducive. That'll create a more conducive environment for unstable air to occur in this region, because there's going to be several clipper systems coming from Canada moving southward, and if the cold air stays long enough throughout the eastern half of the United States, then as a low pressure moves through that colder Arctic air, it's gonna pretty much entrain a lot of that Arctic cold dense air, and as it does so, the wind it'll as it moves southward, it's gonna bring that colder air southward, interact with that warm air, and create an unstable environment to later create and really develop this storm. And really, how much unstable air there is going to be very key in determining the strength of this storm, and we just have to see how powerful this low pressure ends up being, because it'll be key to determining how strong the northwest winds will be to maintain a lot of that cold air in the eastern half of the United States. And it also not only depends on that low pressure system, but the one after that, because after the initial low pressure system we're experiencing right now, there's going to be another low pressure system that's expected to form right around the Ohio River Valley, right around Kentucky. And as it moves towards the east, it's also going to bring at least some northwesterly winds with it, and depending on how much cold air brings further southward, that'll create a more conducive environment for an unstable atmosphere to exist right around the Midwest. And you see this low pressure right here is expected to be one of the driving forces of that unstable air in the Midwest to create that storm. And really, it all depends on how far southward that cold air dips. And after we see a little bit of convection in this area, we're going to see another low pressure system move through, bring even more of a jet stream dip to create a lot of thunderstorm activity in the southeast, and that'll eventually convert into snow as we head into the northeast, where a lot of that cold air will be in place. So a lot of questions regarding the position and the strength of this storm. We need to see how much cold air there is, as this is one of the main factors that really create these snowstorms in the Northeast, in the United States in general, how much unstable air there will be. And based off of the Arctic oscillation, it seems like we're going to be in what I call a rough ride in February, because because we're deep in the negative Arctic oscillation. So long story short, a negative Arctic oscillation means that you're going to experience far more jet stream dips and a lot more cold air throughout the United States. And we've been in it since December, the beginning of December. And it's expected to even get lower as we head more and more into February. So I'd expect more jet stream dips, which will create a more conducive environment for unstable air to exist in the United States, to create a lot more snowstorms. So I'd say more likely than not, we will see some sort of blockbuster snowstorm in the Northeast this week and later this week, since both computer models are almost identical in bringing a major snowstorm through the Northeast, and it could dump close to a foot of snow in some areas. So in terms of snowfall forecasts, that's currently expected by both the European and the GFS model. We're gonna take a look at that right now, and you're gonna see that a pretty large area of 6 to 12 inches throughout the northeast and southern New England. And by the way, this snow might not be exact. This snowfall accumulation forecast may not be entirely from the predicted snowstorm alone, because some of this snow is combining some of the snow that we're experiencing right now in the northeast and some of the snow that this next clipper system will bring. However, for the most part, I'd say like 80% or a little bit more of this snow is associated with this next snowstorm, and just a large area of 6 to 12 inches. And what's interesting is that the heaviest snow that the European model is forecasting is right around DC, Maryland, and southern New Jersey, where they're pretty much in the sweet spot of where the heaviest snow could be. Where the European is forecasting over a foot of snow right around the DC area and right around pretty much the mid-Atlantic and the Mason-Dixon line between Pennsylvania and Maryland. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how the forecasts play out. And the GFS model isn't really disagreeing that much either, as they're both bringing a blockbuster snowstorm throughout the Midwest and the Northeast, where well over a foot is expected throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and then extending as far west as the Ohio River Valley. They're also experiencing 6 to 12 inches of snow, and just south of pretty much Columbus and Indianapolis, and just north of the Ohio River Valley. So a long area of heavy snow throughout the Midwest and the Northeast. So there's definitely something to at least be aware of throughout the eastern half of the United States, as you could see another blockbuster snowstorm out of this. It really all depends on how much unstable air there is, or strength of that storm, the position of the storm, and just a lot of different factors when we're talking about storm 5 days out. However, based off of what both computer models are saying, I think it's more likely than not, at least somewhere in the eastern half of the United States, you will experience a blockbuster snowstorm. So keep that in mind. And then even extending as far west as the Midwest, you could experience close to 3 to 6 inches of snow, and potentially more in some cases. So this could be a big snowstorm, and definitely at least be aware of this if you're in the eastern half of the United States. And in terms of my snowfall forecast on this snowstorm, I pretty much combine the forecasted snowfall accumulation of that both the European and the GFS model are forecasting, and also based off of my experience with how these computer models react. And I'm expecting a large area of 6 to 12 inches throughout the Ohio River Valley and the Northeast, pretty much the same as what the computer models are saying. So this would be a major snowstorm in this case. And then just the north and south of this 6 to 12 inch snow swath, we're experiencing 3 to 6 inches, which is still a lot of snow, and 1 to 3 inches just to the north of it. But like I said, in the bottom left, the forecast is the bottom right, the forecast is subject to change. So do not take this as 100% truth just yet, because it could easily change drastically. I want to emphasize that. But for now, this is what the forecast currently is for a lot of the Northeast and the Midwest. So definitely at least be aware of this throughout the East Coast, as it's very possible you could experience another blockbuster snowstorm that you guys definitely need to at least be aware of. But outside of this snowstorm, we're also experiencing the snowstorm that's impacting a lot of the Northeast. We're seeing that snow extend to New England at this point, and let me refresh this to see the most latest radar. I'm looking outside right now because I want to see how much snow there is, and it's snowing at a moderate clip right now. In my area, I'm in northern New Jersey, but you see that in my area, we're about to get out of the snow. It looks like, depending on how far east the storm goes, it's expected to move more in the southerly to northerly direction, so we still might have a couple hours to go. But you see that the heaviest snowfall is throughout New England and throughout Maine and throughout New Hampshire as well, getting impacted by the heavy snow. As I'd say, the low pressure center is right just off the coast of New Jersey, probably a couple hundred miles off the coast. So it's far enough to bring a lot of snow to coastal regions, even Long Island, and even as far east as Cape Cod, Massachusetts. However, this snow is expected to end very soon for New Jersey. I'd say before sunset, you guys will be out of it throughout New Jersey, New York City metropolitan area, and then New England a little later than that. But for the most part, this should be completely gone by midnight tonight, heading into Monday. So let's move a little bit forward to 4 p.m. So by around 4 p.m., it should mainly be out of New York City at this point. And by the way, it's dumping a decent amount of snow in my area. It already dumped 5 inches of snow. And I measured that a couple hours ago. I think like 3 hours ago. I'll post a video soon of me outside in the weather. So stay tuned for that. But I'd say that we're close to 8 inches in my area. So it was a little bit more than anticipated by computer models. Like the computer models were leaning more towards 3 to 6, but we more got 8. And throughout New England, it's expected to end, I'd say, right around 7 to 8 p.m. throughout Massachusetts, and then Maine should completely get out of it right around very early on Monday as the storm moves to the northeast, and it'll dump a decent amount of snow. For how much additional accumulation you should expect, I'd say New Jersey, I'd maybe only expect maybe another inch of snow before it's all said and done. It's around 3 p.m. Eastern time, so you guys should be out of it by the time this video is uploaded. And throughout New England, I'd say maybe another 2 to 4 inches, and maybe 5 to 8 in Maine and the eastern half of Massachusetts. But for the most part, it should be completely gone by midnight tonight, and then our next snowstorm might bring a decent amount of 1 to 3 inches throughout Pennsylvania, throughout upstate New York, northern Jersey, New York City, and then throughout New England should see another small clipper system form as a result of an area of unstable air that's expected to form right around the Ohio River Valley. But however, this isn't the same snowstorm that is going to dump 6 to 12 inches of snow, as that next snowstorm that could be a blockbuster storm will be on Thursday, where we could see just very heavy snow. But this clipper system will move through, maybe bringing 1 to 3 inches. So just to at least keep that in mind if you're in the Northeast headed into Tuesday. And yeah, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related calls. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related calls. And I hope you guys have a good day.